It's time to put your health in your own hands. Get ready to learn from today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. Now, here's your host.
Hi, everyone. This is Tammy Patzer, and I'm excited to introduce today's guest, KRISTA CALLAS. KRISTA left her private practice in cranial sacral work and polarity therapy to pursue writing and to raise her son on a small farm. When she met Guruji Mahendra Trivedi, founder of the Triveni Effect, she immediately recognized the miraculous depth and transformative power of his work. For the last 8 years, she has received regular biofield energy transmissions and credits the Triveni Effect for better health and vitality, as well as a renewed passion for the healing arts and a more profound ability to heal. Her healing abilities have been validated in rigorous scientific studies using both cell-based and mouse models. The results suggest that recipients of KRISTA's energy transmissions may experience such benefits as better overall health and quality of life, and increased abilities to absorb and assimilate vitamin D3. Today, KRISTA and I are going to talk more about insomnia and the Triveni Effect. Welcome, KRISTA.
Thank you, Tammy. It's a thrill to be here. Thank you for having me back.
Well, this is pretty exciting because last time we talked about the Triveni Effect and what the Triveni Effect is and everything, but we really didn't get an opportunity to dig deeper into more specifics. And many people have talked about the Triveni Effect and how it helps them sleep better. It seems like something so simple. But tell me more about insomnia and how many people it really does affect.
Sure. Yes. According to the CDC, insomnia is characterized by an inability to initiate or maintain sleep. So that was actually new information for me when I started reading about it, because everybody thinks of insomnia as you just can't fall asleep at night. But also, if you wake up at like 2 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning and you can't fall back asleep, that's also under the umbrella of insomnia. And, 50 to 70 million adults are struggling with some form of sleep disorder, whether it's insomnia or sleep apnea or restless leg. But I did the math on this, and it translates to like just over 20% of the population. So we're talking about 1 in 5 people. So this is huge. Yeah, it's a big thing. And sleep issues go with so many. They kind of dovetail with so many other things. Any kind of chronic pain or diseases like cancer or asthma. Any kind of lung issue diseases, diabetes, heart disease, Parkinson's, anybody really having chronic pain, it can be very hard to sleep. So there are a number of causes of insomnia. One of the main ones is stress, just simple stress, or not so simple stress, depending on what your situation is. Having an unpredictable work schedule. I think in particular, like healthcare professionals, people who are working very long hours, transportation workers and warehouse workers, split shifts. Oh my gosh. When I first met my husband, he was working a split shift at what was then Airborne Express. So he was out on the tarmac loading the planes, and he worked from 3 a.m. till 8 a.m. and then again from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And I tell you, I don't think I've ever seen a human being so exhausted and still functioning. So, I mean, that would be more, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I just can imagine that, because I remember I worked briefly in newspapers. I've been in newspapers a long time, but I always worked day shift, 9 to 5 or whatever. And when I changed jobs, I actually was supposed to work an afternoon to 11 shift. So I had to leave my house like at noon to drive an hour and a half to get there. And then I started work and I was supposed to leave at 11, but of course I never got to leave at 11 because of the lottery. I had to wait until the lottery numbers came out. So I wouldn't leave until about midnight, and then I had to drive an hour and a half home. And then I'd get home around 2:30, and of course I'd be like, all amped up because I'd been working, and I'd watch an hour of TV, and then I'd sleep until about 7 when I had to get up because I had children in high school, and then I tried to take a nap, and I literally was just not functioning hardly at all because I was not getting that solid amount of sleep I needed. And I remember being kind of like stressed a lot. I got a little paranoid. I just couldn't function at a high capacity. And I hated that job more than anything because it just disrupted my natural rhythms, because I'm naturally an early morning person. And if I go to bed at a normal time, then I can use my brain very much. So I imagine it affects your brain a lot. And also, if you're tired, you end up either eating too much, or maybe you drink too much caffeine, or some people go the other direction and drink alcohol to calm themselves down. So I imagine sleep or not having enough sleep can really harm you. One of the things you said earlier was interesting, related to restless leg syndrome, because I don't think that people equate that necessarily to a sleep disorder, because obviously it's their legs that are, bothering them. And I have had that syndrome where it's like my legs, I just felt like they needed to move. Right. And they tingle and they irritate you. So very interesting. So what are some of the mental disorders that have been linked to sleep or lack of sleep?
Well, actually, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because anxiety disorder is certainly right up there, and which, I mean, that's kind of an obvious thing in a way, because if you're stressed, if you're having anxiety, then you can't really. It's harder to let down, right? You can't relax. Depression also, there's what's called a bidirectional link with depression, in that if you suffer from depression, the chances of you also having insomnia are really high. And if you have insomnia, the chances that you also suffer from depression are also really high. So that is a big one. Post-traumatic stress disorder can also really interfere with our ability to sleep. And another thing that you were kind of pointing to was the negative ripple effect that happens when you're overtired and you're off your rhythms, your natural rhythms, and kind of the impact that it has on the people around you, on your work situation. The Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine said that chronic insomnia patients are more likely to use healthcare resources, visit physicians, be absent or late for work, make errors or have accidents at work, and have more serious road accidents. There's an increased risk for suicide, substance abuse, relapse, and possible immune dysfunction. And, all of these things really kind of point to how, when we can't sleep, how it impacts all the people around us. And going back to that statistic of like 1 in 5 people, I mean, they're out there driving on the road, or, people who are exhausted are, in working heavy machinery and, doing very dangerous things.
Yeah, when I used to drive home late at night, it was awful because I'd either get behind somebody who was weaving and they could have been drunk or sleeping. And then I'd get a cup of coffee at the local fast food place before I hit the freeway, and I'd be opening the window trying to stay awake. I would be trying to yell. I'd be going, down the road, just trying to stay awake, because if I was just quiet, I'd kind of zone out. And this was an hour and a half drive where I was driving at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, which I imagine is one of the most dangerous times to be out. And I was definitely, not really capable of functioning, and I should not have been driving, but what are you going to do? You got to get home,
Exactly.
So that's really scary. So tell me a little bit about, how do most people cope with insomnia, and what are some of the treatments or things that people can do if they're suffering from this insomnia disorder?
Right. Well, if you go to the doctor, they'll typically what they do is they'll have you visit a sleep clinic, and they'll measure you and they'll test you, and you may also get referred to a therapist to see if there's maybe there's a major life issue going on, or some kind of loss that you're dealing with, or something that that you need to talk about, like a more emotionally based issue. And then from there, they get into things like relaxation training, which is where you do, I don't know if you've ever taken a yoga class where at the end of the class they have you like release every muscle in your body. It's a relaxation technique where you do progressive muscle relaxation to intentionally relax every muscle. And that's one of the things that they do. And stimulus control is something that health professionals use to try to break unhealthy associations that we might have with the bedroom and the struggle to sleep, basically. So what they do is they advise you to limit all bedroom activity is just for sleep. So you don't read a book before you go to sleep. You don't watch television. You only go in and try to lay down. You lay down and try to fall asleep. And if it doesn't come in like 20 minutes, you're still awake, then you get up and you leave the room. So what they're trying to do is create an association between sleep and your bedroom, basically, so that gets ingrained in your thinking, so that when you go into the bedroom, the desire there is to go to sleep. Then also there's cognitive behavioral therapy, which is another type of therapy that's basically about trying to help people uncover any kind of hidden fears or negative beliefs about sleep or quality of sleep or the vulnerability of sleep, or whatever issues people might have with, whatever emotional issues people might have with sleep, and trying to help people to replace those negative beliefs with a more rational, positive belief system. And then beyond these types of therapies, there's pharmaceutical drugs, which tend to have negative side effects. In the alternative therapy world, there's other relaxation training techniques like meditation, different breathing exercises, mindfulness practices like guided imagery, guided meditations, and then there's over-the-counter herbal remedies like valerian and melatonin, which
I've heard of the melatonin. If you watch TV at all, which you may not be someone who watches TV, but they're always promoting melatonin now as, you know, the safe alternative. And then, of course, there's ZQuil, which I'm not sure what that is, but it's like NyQuil, but it's just for sleep. And it's so funny because I am not somebody, I don't have trouble falling asleep, but I will wake up like with the slightest noise or sound. But what I discovered, one thing that would wake me up at night was a little tiny blue light that was on my, I have a strip for power, and it was a tiny, tiny little blue light where all my cords were, and it would wake me up at night. And I actually had to cover it up. And once I covered it up, I quit waking up. And then also I do have a TV in my room, and there's a little button that's kind of a white light, and that would wake me up also. So that just proves how sensitive we are to even a minimal of light. But you've actually found that the Triveni Effect has been very useful for sleep. Can you tell me more about how did you discover that the Triveni Effect was useful? And if you could explain again exactly what the Triveni Effect is and how it does work for things such as getting a better night's rest.
Sure, yes. The Triveni Effect is the work of Guruji Mahendra Triveni, who is a spiritual master who can harness and transmit the vital force, the vital life energy from nature, and transmit it. He can harness it and transmit it to anyone, anywhere in the world. And he has been having this energy that he's transmitting tested scientifically. And to date, he's done over 4,000 experiments, and his publications he's had over 350 peer-reviewed scientific publications in scientific journals, and the number of research articles and the research, it's still ongoing. And so this energy it's potent. It raises our consciousness. It gives us more vitality. It it uplifts our perception so that we begin to see things differently, and we begin to notice issues that we might not have noticed before, so that we can make changes in our lives for our betterment, for our happiness. And the first time I heard about this energy was in 2011. A friend said, there's going to be a radio interview with this man. I really think you would be interested. And I heard the radio interview, and it was on that call, that radio call, that internet call that Guruji gave an energy transmission to those people who were listening. And it was just extraordinary. It was really a profound experience for me. And that night, I had been suffering from insomnia. I had been, I think it was like a midlife hormonal shifts that were going on with me. I could not fall asleep. I was for months at a time just dozing for like 20 minutes here and there at night. But after I did the first transition, I fell into this really deep sleep. And I'll tell you, the next morning when I woke up, I sat up and I was like looking around with big eyes, like, wow, because I felt refreshed for the first time in, a very long time. And that's the effect that it can have. it the Triveni Effect realigns us with our own innate, natural, God-given inner blueprint. And like one way of thinking of what's our innate blueprint? Like if you look, like there are some flowers that they'll open in the sun when the sun comes up, and then at night they just close naturally. It's like we're also designed to sleep. We're not designed to be working like you were mentioning earlier, all hours of the night and then staying up later and manipulating, your hours. We're organically designed to sleep a certain number of hours per night. And so to return to that blueprint, original blueprint, which is what the Triveni Effect does for us, it helps us return to that. All of a sudden, it's like, I know for myself, I began to sleep like a child. To like, if you've ever seen a child, the way a child sleeps, and it's like their limbs are just kind of all over the place because they're just splayed out because they're so relaxed. That kind of deep sleep, it comes like a gift. It comes like the way it came to us when we were children. And that's what the Triveni Effect can do for us. And interestingly, it's one of the first things that begins to clear up for people with sleep issues.
Isn't that interesting? Because you're absolutely right. I think when you were saying that about the way little children sleep, they can sleep anywhere. I mean, like if you think about how a baby is, they just bunk and they're out. And yeah, you're right. The body is just relaxed. Or if you look at an animal, so an animal is like that too. They just like, oh, and they just not a care in the world. But that is really interesting. So now, fast forward to now from the time that you first started with Triveni Effect, and you've actually been working with Gurji, and your abilities now have been scientifically validated. And do you work with people to help them with the life force energy? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, thank you. I will. I started to receive energy transmissions in 2011, and I have also been receiving energy transmissions from Alice until for a number of years, and then also from Darn. And the more of this energy that we receive, it transforms us. It transforms us so that we are fulfilling our higher potential, basically. And I used to be in the healing arts, and I was a practicing craniosacral and polarity therapist in the area, and I left that quite a while ago due to illness. And the Triveni Effect has revitalized my health, and it has given me a renewed passion for working with people and and really just the desire to share this energy with other people, like to share what I've been given. The longer we receive this energy and the more of it we receive, that transformational process, it helps us be better conduits so that we can then share this energy with other people ourselves. So myself and my colleagues, a number of us have been receiving regular transmissions since 2011, and we are beginning to work with people now because we have been having our own ability tested in the lab, and we now have our own scientific papers demonstrating what we're able to do. And so, yeah, I work with people now. I'm offering energy transmissions, life force energy transmissions.
So if somebody wanted to get more information and work with you, how could they do that?
Well, I have a website. It's KRISTACALLAS.com. That's KRISTACALLAS, KRISTACALLAS.com. And my email is KRISTA@KRISTACALLAS.com.
Great. So if someone goes to your website, what can they expect to find there?
Well, I have a programs page. So if they go to that programs page, there's a menu across the top, and one of those is programs. If you click on that, then they will see a list of what I offer. I have an introductory package where somebody can have a dialogue for up to 60 minutes, and I can hear like what are they struggling with, and what are they looking for, and then at the end of that discussion, I'll give them an energy transmission, and then I will also share an energy transmission with them for the following 3 nights. And then there are also membership programs where if somebody loves this energy as much as I do, they can sign up and they can receive an energy transmission either every other night or every night.
And you also have your science papers available for people to take a look at on your website also?
I do. Yeah, they're all listed on the website.
I think that would be really interesting to see, because often, when you talk about things like life force energy or biofield energy or things that are a little bit different, and then you say, well, yes, it's scientifically validated, I think that would be very interesting to find out, how the science is conducted and everything, because it is very unique to have, something that is in a spiritual type form or energetic form validated by science, because that is something, science is, the world of science is always trying to disprove something, to say it's not real, and yet the Triveni Effect has more than 4,000 experiments, 350 publications in peer-reviewed scientific journals. It's in universities, including Harvard, National Institutes of Health. And then here you are, you've been working with Gurji, and now you have science to back up what you do too. So that's makes you unique, and it makes you stand out from a lot of people in the healing profession. So that's a very interesting background that you have, KRISTA. So you should definitely make sure everybody knows that. So anything else before I let you go? It's been really enjoyable. And again, how cool would it be if you could have a restful sleep, get a good night's sleep?
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, there's hope on the horizon for people who are struggling with insomnia. This has no side effects. It has no negative effects. And it can really help. Yeah.
Well, everybody, you can go take a look at KRISTACALLAS.com. You can look at the programs, the science, get more information. And again, KRISTA, thank you so much for sharing about yourself and the Triveni Effect today.
Thank you for having me, Tammy.
Thank you, everyone. Go make it a beautiful day.
You've been listening to today's top health and wellness innovators and thought leaders on Optimal Health Radio. To get more solid health and wellness information, visit OptimalHealthRadio.com.